Level 1. The bad dream. It's the dream where you show up late for work or realize you forgot to study for the final exam you were supposed to take that morning. Maybe someone you care about tells you they're disappointed in you, and that feeling follows you through the dream like a heavy shadow. These dreams are uncomfortable, but they're not frightening. They don't jolt you awake. In fact, by the time you sit up in bed, the details are already slipping away. A few minutes later, while you're brushing your teeth, you can still sense a lingering discomfort, but the content of the dream is already fading into nothing. That's because bad dreams at level 1 are part of the brain's natural nightly process during REM sleep. REM is the stage when your eyes move rapidly beneath your eyelids and your brain becomes incredibly active, almost as active as when you're awake. This is the stage where the most vivid dreams appear. During REM, your brain performs what researchers often describe as file compression. It sorts through the day, keeping what's emotionally meaningful and discarding what isn't. If you had an awkward conversation, your brain may replay it with slight distortions. If you're worrying about money, you might dream about losing your wallet. The dream content is symbolic, but recognizable. What defines level 1 is its forgettability. These dreams have no staying power. They're a mental cleanup process, and because of that, they vanish quickly. But the moment you cross into level 2, everything changes. If you're enjoying this journey into the world of nightmares, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more chilling insights. Level 2, the classic nightmare. This is what most people imagine when they hear the word nightmare. You're being chased down a dark hallway, or you're falling from a height so impossible that reality itself feels distorted. Sometimes something is hunting you, reaching for you, trying to harm you, and no matter how hard you try, you can't fight back. You try to scream, but no sound escapes. You try to run, but your legs feel heavy. Your body reacts as if the threat were real. Your heart races, your breathing speeds up, and sweat forms on your skin. Your brain releases the same chemicals it would release in a life-or-death situation: adrenaline, cortisol, the natural alarms of survival. Then you wake up, suddenly, heart pounding. It might be 2 in the morning. You gasp for breath and need a few seconds to remember where you are and convince yourself that none of it really happened. Classic nightmares occurred during the same sleep stage as bad dreams, REM, but there's a key difference. During nightmares, your amygdala, the brain's center for fear and emotional intensity, goes into overdrive. It's as if your brain is running a simulation of danger, asking, what if this happened? How would I survive it?
A rehearsal for real threats in waking life. That's why, unlike the bad dream, you remember level 2 nightmares vividly. Even days later, you might recall the feeling of running, the sensation of falling, or the terror you felt in the moment you woke up. Most people spend their lives between level 1 and level 2, but some go further. Level 3, the recurring nightmare. This is when the same nightmare repeats itself again and again, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for years. It might be the same hallway, the same monster, or the same moment of terror that traps you in a loop you can't escape. Your brain doesn't randomly replay the same nightmare without reason. When a nightmare becomes recurring, it's because the underlying fear or emotional conflict hasn't been resolved. Something deep within your subconscious is trying to process a problem your waking mind avoids. If you dream about drowning repeatedly, you might feel overwhelmed in real life. If you dream about being trapped, you might feel stuck in a relationship, a job, or a situation you don't know how to escape. The nightmare acts like a signal, a flashing warning light your brain refuses to turn off until the issue is confronted. Studies suggest that while about half of adults experience occasional nightmares, only a small percentage, between 2 and 8%, experience frequent nightmares. These more persistent nightmares often point to deeper emotional difficulties: anxiety, depression, chronic stress, insomnia, or substance-related sleep disruptions. Level 3 is where nightmares start to affect your waking life. You begin to fear sleep itself because you already know what's waiting for you when your eyes close. Level 4, the lucid nightmare. This is where dreams take an unexpected turn. You realize you're dreaming. You're fully aware that the scenario isn't real. In a typical lucid dream, this awareness gives you control. You could fly, reshape the world, or stop the nightmare instantly. But in a lucid nightmare, awareness doesn't bring freedom, it brings terror. You know you're dreaming, but you can't change anything. The monster keeps chasing you, the walls keep closing in. You tell yourself to wake up, to move your fingers, to blink, to do anything that might break the dream, but your body refuses to respond. It's as if your mind is awake, but trapped inside a terrifying simulation you can't escape. Neurologically, this happens because your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-awareness and decision-making, becomes active. That gives you consciousness. But the parts of the brain responsible for motor control and voluntary action remain suppressed, as they are during normal REM sleep. So you can think clearly, analyze the nightmare, even understand how absurd it is, but you can't act on that knowledge. The result is a nightmare infinitely more distressing than the typical one. You have all the awareness of being awake, but none of the control. Some people even say that lucid nightmares feel longer than regular nightmares. Time distorts, stretching moments into what feels like hours trapped in fear. Level 5, Night Terrors. This is where the nightmare crosses the border between dream and physical reality. Night terrors are not the same as nightmares. In a nightmare, you remain asleep and still. In a night terror, you are deeply asleep, but your body acts out the dream. You might sit up in bed with your eyes wide open but see nothing. You might scream, thrash, or even run across the room. Your heart rate can spike to dangerously high levels. You might be drenched in sweat, gasping for air, fighting an enemy that exists only in your mind.
But the most disturbing part is that when morning comes, you won't remember any of it. Night terrors occur during non-REM deep sleep, stage 3, where the brain is far less conscious than during REM sleep. Because your muscles aren't paralyzed as they are during REM sleep, your body moves freely. Your brain becomes trapped between sleep and wakefulness, with the fear circuits active but the memory circuits offline. You function on pure primal panic without awareness or recall. Night terrors are most common in children, but a small percentage of adults experience them regularly. Stress, sleep deprivation, fever, and certain medications can trigger them. In level 5, other people remember the terror, your partner, your family, but you wake up disoriented with no memory of what happened. Level 6, sleep paralysis. At this level, nightmares become something entirely different. You wake up, or think you do. You're lying in bed, fully conscious. You can see your room, recognize your surroundings, and understand that you're awake, but you can't move. Not your arms, not your legs, not even your fingers. You try to call out for help, but no sound escapes. And then comes the presence. Many people feel that someone or something is in the room. You might see a shadowy figure standing in the corner, or feel a weight pressing down on your chest. Some see a shape hovering inches above their face. Breathing becomes difficult, not because your lungs don't work, but because fear takes over completely. Sleep paralysis happens when the brain wakes up before the body does. During REM sleep, your muscles are intentionally paralyzed, so you don't act out your dreams. But sometimes that paralysis lingers as your mind becomes conscious. You are awake, aware, but trapped in your sleeping body. Up to 40% of people experience sleep paralysis at least once in their lives. The hallucinations, the shadows, the figures, the sense of being watched happen because your brain is desperately trying to explain why you cannot move. It creates a threat to match the terror, turning paralysis into a predator. Unlike earlier levels, this doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like reality collapsing around you. Cultures around the world have given names to these entities: the old hag, the night hag, sleep demons, because humans have been haunted by the same phenomenon for centuries. Level 7, the trauma nightmare. This is the deepest, darkest level. Here, the dream doesn't distort reality, it recreates it with brutal precision. You're back inside the car during the accident, back in the moment you heard the news, back in the place where your life changed forever. Every sound, every smell, every detail returns exactly as it happened. These nightmares are the hallmark of post-traumatic stress disorder. Around half to 70% of people with PTSD experience recurring trauma nightmares that replay the event over and over. What makes level 7 different is that you cannot tell yourself it was just a dream, because it wasn't. It happened, and your mind is forcing you to relive it, not as a memory, but as a sensory and emotional reenactment. Your body responds exactly as it did during the real event, heart rate rising, cortisol flooding your system, muscles freezing. You're not simply remembering trauma, you are re-experiencing it neurologically. Trauma nightmares can appear during sleep or break through while awake when the mind is vulnerable. Some people become afraid to sleep at all. They stay awake for days because they know that closing their eyes means returning to the worst moment of their lives. And those are the 7 levels of nightmares, 7 stages of fear that begin with everyday worries and end with the mind replaying real-world trauma with perfect accuracy.